And here we go, off and racing and running once again. Another big weekend here. Second weekend of April 2022. Hey everybody, Jason Blewitt checking in once again on the West Point 25. This is the, I guess, second and final West Point 25 pre-Kentucky Derby prep race edition of the podcast. But great to have you with us here, and I do appreciate you stopping by and received quite a bit of positive feedback concerning the last podcast I did a week ago with the Florida Derby card, and figured why not take another crack at the races. I'll cherry pick around. I mean, my MO, or at least my plan of attack for the next, again, 20-25 minutes will be mostly New York, mostly Aqueduct, and I of course checked out the Bluegrass and the Commonwealth, checked out both of those stake races because after all, we've got Obezos. Good luck to him in the Commonwealth, and the Bluegrass is the Bluegrass. But look, weather, and it's one of the reasons I opted just to stay home this weekend in South Florida. Weather in the forecast, I think, has been very much front and center, looking at New York and looking at Aqueduct with the return of New York turf racing. I hope they're on the grass tomorrow. I mean, unless it just is a complete washout, I find it hard to believe all the turf races will be off on Saturday on the Wood Day card, April 9th. So again, I'm not going to do every single race at the Big A. I thought we'd start with the fourth race, and I could kind of go through and let you know what I'm thinking, and we'll do I guess the bulk of the card after the fourth race. But I'm skipping over the first three races. The second race, there's two horses on the dirt that are basically 6-5 and 7-5 on the morning line, and the first and third races, I don't know. Again, they're off the turf today. It's muddy at Aqueduct. I don't want to get my crystal ball out. It's actually in the shop and start predicting what races are on and what races are off the turf. But hoping the fourth is on is my long-winded spiel. And this is a race where I'm a little bummed that Chad Brown has got two horses that are coupled. He's got the One Dream of Change and the 1A Investment Strategy. I don't like investment strategy. I just don't like this filly. Not to say she wouldn't run the best race of her life and improve in only her third start, but it looked like she had a great trip last out at 2-5, barely won that race at Tampa, and horses out of that race have done basically no impactful running, with 7 coming back to lose on the turf, and that race was 0 for 8. Total. I like the One Dream of Change, who Klarovich Stables and Chad purchased privately after her first couple of races. She lost all chance in her U.S. debut. Z, the mailman's coming. So no barking, Z. But anyway, this filly had a very difficult, legitimately difficult and terrible start last time out. Bred on both sides for turf, and I have a feeling with Chad just getting these turf breezes in her before she ventured up to New York. I think she's going to run a big race and is likely to catch a turf course that's got some give to it. This is a field, though, very much dominated by question marks. It's a Euro heavy race. You've got an Irish bred, British bred, an Irish bred, a British bred, and another Irish bred, good old Entwine, who's in off a win. We had her earlier in her career. So, you know, you do have a pretty large, robust crew of European bred fillies. You've also got layoffs in the race, including this Bill Mott horse, who last ran New Year's Eve of 2020. I still had that was so long ago, I had about a month left to go in my tenure, my career working for the Stronach Group, and it's on my old computer. I didn't take it out, but I'm pretty sure I wrote about this filly specifically in her turf debut because I thought she'd handle the turf, and she's got an awesome pedigree. Bill Mott over the last 5 years, year plus layoff. He's just won for his last 13, and I'll wrap up this race with two foreign breds. Christoph has got this Ilara, this Irish bred, bred by His Highness the Aga Khan studs. I love that. But man, and she's getting first Lasix. This was a stat. And by the way, I've had some people ask me, well, what do you use to handicap? I love, and I think it's worth every single penny, not only the daily racing form classic PPs, which I have downloaded on my iPad, and the app I'm using right now is called Notability, but DRF Formulator is worth every penny in my humble opinion. So that's basically what I use. Watch a lot of replays, but I had noticed Christoph over the last 5 years, first Lasix on the turf with a foreign bred, a Euro bred, a foreign shipper. He's just 4 for his last 52. And I was wondering if he had done pretty well at Aqueduct with those foreign shippers. He's just 1 for his last 10 over the last 5 years. Ready to Venture is probably going to improve for Mike Stidham. She's the last filly I'm going to talk about here. U.S. debut was solid. She did handle some rain-softened turf. That race looked about, I guess, on par, or that race looked like a Fairgrounds quality allowance race. Forever Dreaming, who won, is a Dallas Stewart trained horse. The runner-up as well. They're okay. The Fairgrounds, other than allowance fillies, nothing spectacular, but again, not terrible. I'm still a fan of the one Dream of Change, and I'm hoping she's not coupled because that's going to hurt her price tomorrow. Didn't have a ton to say on the distaff, where it's nice seeing Search Results back in the mix here as she returns for Chad. This is a big move, actually. Not that it matters. I hate giving out stats for horses that are going to be insanely short prices, and she's an odds-on favorite. But I was curious with Chad at Aqueduct on the dirt, 6 months or greater on the sidelines. I just had this sneaking suspicion his Aqueduct returning horses, mainly horses that were returning this time of year to prep for Belmont Park and beyond. I had a feeling it was a high percentage move, and sure enough, he's close to 40% rather, at 39%. She did some good things. It's good to have her back, and although she spots some recency, to say the least, behind Glass Ceiling, and I'm a big Charlie Baker fan, and I mean from mid-September, second half of September on, look at the improvement. I mean, from that upset, other than win with this fast figure, I mean, she's been a gem of consistency. I wonder, I'd love to ask Charlie when I see him actually later this year, hopefully getting up to New York, ask him like, where'd that improvement come from? She's been really solid, but again, the best horse in the race is Search Results. I guess the age-old question is, although Search Results is the most talented, gifted horse in the race, does the edge, though, go to Glass Ceiling? This is a huge race for Glass Ceiling. I'm not saying it's not a big race for Search Results, but I would imagine Chad is hoping he's got a leading older filly in the mix here, coming back off the layup, whereas Glass Ceiling is going to try to get the getting while the getting's good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the two favorites. Race 6, 20K claimer. No, thank you. And not that I have anything wrong. In fact, I tried to come up with something in this race. I don't have anything against, or there's nothing wrong with claiming races on big days. I looked around. A lot of horses are simply off form. And I for me, I don't want to get involved in a race where this horse, Yankee Division, is going to be favored and could either win by a pole or get beat by 20 plus lengths like he did last time out. Too big a guess. And I didn't have like a stone cold other alternative in the race. So bypassing the 6th. 7th race, some nice New York breds are in the mix here. I thought Value Proposition would sit a good trip. Good to see Rinaldi back in the mix, but overall, I didn't have too strong of an opinion. Christoph's got, of course, City Man. He's got that New York bred tag team of City Man and Therapist coming back. Rinaldi, another New York bred. They've got to get by the turf machine here of Chad Brown and Value Proposition, who, if I was doing picks on television, like my old job, I'd pick Value Proposition. I think he's a worthy favorite in that spot. Let's move on to race number 8. This is the centerpiece, of course, of the afternoon by Jeff Lowe. even though your picture's really handsome. This will go at a mile and a furlong, the grade 2, $750,000 Wood Memorial. You've got three main horses, the big three, as I wrote my horse player now analysis. Mo Donegal for Todd, early voting for Chad, and then Morello for Steve Asmussen. I do love, and I'm a music nerd and I guess a music junkie. Love rock music. I have since I was a young lad all those decades ago, back in the late 80s, when I first really discovered music and MTV. So I do love that Morello as a big Rage Against the Machine fan, and I did like Audio Slave quite a bit. My wife Christina loved Audio Slave and was and still is a huge Chris Cornell fan. So again, I love that Tom Morello has got a horse, and a good horse, much like Blewitt, that's named after him. I personally think Mo Donegal is the horse to beat, and I'll get to him in a second. And if I was doing a morning line for this race, I would make personally Mo Donegal the favorite. But Morello's going to have a lot of support because he's won all 3 starts. He's got fast figures, including a very nice performance last out in the Gotham. And he has looked legitimately solid in his races. And I don't know, I think at sometimes I see, and not that it's a short comment that you come across all that often, but mild hand ride, brisk hand ride, I'm going, well, how easy did the horse win? But yeah, this was, that was very, very illustrative mild hand ride. This horse Morello won very easily last time out. Question becomes, can he stretch out and go an additional furlong, and can he do so while stepping up? And quite simply, he's facing 2 better horses, at least 2 better horses than what he took down last time out in the Gotham. Now, I'm a Dean's List fan for Todd. I just think Dean's List, a simple case, he doesn't want to go a mile. It's just too far for him. So big test for Morello. I don't have any earth-shattering opinions other than, again, he's going long or beyond the mile for the first time, and I don't think he has met a horse of Mo Donegal and/or early voting's quality. So I'm going into this thing thinking Morello is a vulnerable favorite, co-favorite, second choice. And I like Mo Donegal. I like him for a few different reasons. I think first and foremost, what really grabbed my attention was the Holy Bull race and the dominance of both White Barrio and Simplification in the weeks that followed, between the Fountain of Youth and, of course, the Florida Derby a week ago. There's also the other twofold, or at least two-sided coin here. It's his effort in the Holy Bull, and of course he won the Remsen over Zandon last year on the Aqueduct main track as a 2-year-old. A race I would have disqualified him, by the way, but it was, even if he does get DQ'd, he still run very well on the Aqueduct main track in the past. The other reason, though, it's not so much that he's got that Remsen showing. It's just, I think a horse like this, who is not really flashy, is talented, but he's way more of a chug along, like low gear type grinder, going any distance of ground, but specifically a mile and a 16th at Gulfstream Park, where they use that first finish line and it's a very short home stretch. I think a horse like Mo Donegal is up against it, is just up against it, tactically speaking, and because of the race flow, your typical race flow at Gulfstream, where it is such a speed, pace crazy venue. So coming out of a good effort in the Holy Bull, he'll be more comfortable in a longer race on a fairer racetrack at Aqueduct. I'm a Mo Donegal fan there from the inside post. Early voting, I may not have caught his Withers win live back on February 5th, but man, I'll tell you, going back, you can see my trip note. In Command, and we do replays in purple, but In Command crushed. That was a good looking effort. and beat a horse who came back to win the Rebel. Dangerous. He's going to be the inside speed in all likelihood. He'll likely have some pressure from Morello and Rapoli's maiden in the race, the number 4 long term. But I'm anxious to see how early voting is going to do. And I gave him some credit for handling a 9 furlong distance and race on the first Saturday in February. I think that's a big deal for a very exciting son of gun runner. I didn't have any price idea in the race. I do like Mo Donegal again for the win. I would use him with early voting. Morello, this horse long term, I believe, wants to go long and can stay the distance. So if you were looking for a price, maybe he can get a piece and make your try or super there in the Wood Memorial. Now we move on to our man here, first captain in the Carter. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do pink for first captain. Although I don't really use yellow all that often, so let's doing this on the fly here. Little first captain. All right, so that's my bad attempt at black and gold on the fly. But anyway, we've got him stepping up in the Grade 1 Carter. Look, I mean, this horse on the outside is a powerhouse. And if you had followed any of my Horse Player Now stuff throughout the winter, I've been not on a soapbox because it hasn't been like this crazy smart opinion, but I've been a fan of Speaker's Corner and didn't think he could lose the Fred Hooper or the GP Mile, and he won both with fast figures. And to be honest, I think with first captain at this stage of the game, this is a horse. You can see the arrows going up. We are still very much, for as determined and tenacious as this horse has been in his wins, and he's been very game, including last out, getting to the wire first. I just think the first captain we've got now in early April, we're going to have a different, better, stronger, faster version in a couple of months from now. And I think that's a progression that he's going to have throughout the season as a 4-year-old. So believe me, I hope he wins by a pole tomorrow. I really do, of course. But I'm a Speaker's Corner fan, and I think everybody else not named Speaker's Corner has their work cut out for them, including our guy, first captain, who best of luck, first captain. I am rooting for you, even though I do think by June into August and into September, we're going to almost have like a first captain 2.0, 2.1, 2.2. He is still very much an unfinished product. Talking about some of the competition, Reinvestment Risk is coming out of a fast victory here, very fast win at Gulfstream Park in late February. He had at one time been cut out to be a very good horse. In fact, was even money against Jackie's Warrior in the Champagne back in 2020. Nondescript 3-year-old campaign. He only ran the one time. He might be able to make up again for some lost time. I've always liked Green Light Go, and it's a similar, although he's got more races and he's an older horse than Reinvestment Risk. There's a little bit of that same parallel with this horse or plot line. It's very solid 2-year-old. Once upon a time was 6-5 in the Champagne against Tiz the Law, and then his career pretty much went sideways and bounced around in the Midwest and was with a couple of different trainers, back with Jimmy. And it looks like Jimmy's got this now 5-year-old son of Hard Spun straightened out and getting better. And in fact, better than ever. He should run well. And Mind Control, who's pretty amazing at 1.4 million plus in the bank with 9 wins. Son of Stay Thirsty. I like seeing that. And always seems to run a solid race as he's coming back in his first start since the PA Derby undercard. Well, good luck to first captain against this powerhouse out here in Speaker's Corner. The Gazelle, very solid field, the 3-year-old fillies, a deeper race. I know Kathleen O was just awesome. Her and the runner-up really ran well in last Saturday's Gulfstream Oaks. But I find as like a betting race, the Gazelle is way more compelling and appealing than the GP Oaks was. The favorite I saw on the morning line at 7-5 happens to be Fenty Valentine. Was a New York bred, not much pedigree, very solid horse. I think her edge in this race, in my mind, is the fact that she ran well going 9 furlongs in Demoiselle last season at 2, and she does, at least to my eyes and my mind, she's got a little bit of a home game type advantage because she won the prep for this race and did so by the length of the stretch with a very big figure in the Busher. However, much like early voting or even Morello, the water's getting deeper, and you've got a situation on Wood Day where, Gulfstream's over, and you've got tougher, better horses that are migrating back, back northeast. And like I said, with those two, this is a better field and much better field than the Busher was. A fellow New York bred's in the mix in Classy Edition who did run well behind Kathleen O. And I was curious watching this 1 mile race because my gut feeling off the bat was with Classy Edition, would she simply be a horse that was topping out at like 7, 8, 6 to 7 furlongs? But she finished really nice in this race and had a great trip, was up close inside, finished well. And that gives me hope how, as well as she finished behind Kathleen O, that she can go and stretch out and go 9 furlongs for her first start beyond the mile. But she is definitely dangerous for Todd and a worthy foe to Venti Valentine, certainly as far as a fellow New York bred goes. Maybe my best bet on the card is Nostalgic, though. And I had liked this horse quite a bit, and she didn't run well at all in the Swedish Chan. I thought the turf might really bring out her best. But getting back on the dirt, you can see this breakthrough win out of her last time out. And look, let me be frank. I think Liam's Kiss, who hadn't run all that fast and was a big even money favorite, she's on the slower side. And she's probably a little distance challenge where she doesn't want to go a mile and a 16. So again, there were some factors in the favor of Nostalgic regarding the competition and who she beat. But it looked, again, to me, she was getting stronger as that race wore on in deep stretch. And I from a visual standpoint, love the way she looked. Race came up fast. And certainly for her, it was a career best performance. Again, I think this is one of these Bill Mott, Godolphin homebreds that, not that she wasn't good last year, because she ran fine in her first couple of races on the dirt as a 2-year-old, but she is now just maturing and coming into her own, especially with a giant Medaglia d'Oro Tappet pedigree. And boy, I'm expecting another forward move in the Gazelle, and I like her. She's 9-2 on the morning line. And I'm anxious to see how she runs in that spot. That is Nostalgic. Moving on to the 11th race. In fact, it's the finale. It's the Bayshore. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The major plot line or subplot is Todd versus Chad. Todd's got a couple of horses in the mix. Chad's got a good-looking last out maiden winner by Dialed In and highly respected. But, I mean, and I didn't see the morning line for this race, but I would imagine Todd will have the first two betting favorites in Dean's List, who I like and prefer over the number 9 Wit. Morello, of course, going to be co-favorite or maybe a slight favorite. We'll see in the Wood Memorial. Point is, he's a top, highly regarded 3-year-old at this point, and Dean's List, although not matching strides, just did not want to go a mile. I think turning back to 7 furlongs is what this son of Speightstown is just going to want to do for the time being. He's going to be just more comfortable turning back to 7/8. And I spent the morning, in fact, as I tape this thing Friday afternoon, I spent Friday morning with Todd up at Palm Beach Downs. And I asked him, I said, hey, how's Witt doing? And he said he's doing well. But I don't know. I kind of got the vibe from Todd that he feels as though Witt may need a race to get back going. And he was a habitual slow breaker and bad actor at the gate. This horse had a lot of trouble coming out of the gate with the field and the majority of his action as a 2-year-old. I know we've got a City of Light out of Anchorage 2-year-old we purchased from this lady, Rosalind Pollen, who seems to breed just a very good horse. That's why I've got her highlighted. But good to have Witt back, even though I prefer his stablemate. And Chad's horse, highly respected, really ran well and paid a good price. I had noticed the fourth place finisher came back and was a big winner at Tampa. Horses are 1 for 5 coming out of that race. I'm a Dean's List fan though. In the Bayshore capping of Wood Day 2022. Good luck to first captain. We'll see how he does against Speaker's Corner. I really like Nostalgic and Mo Donegal for me in the big one there. So very much Todd Pletcher all day long for me up in New York. I'll hit a couple of races at Keeneland, beginning with our buddy Obezos in the Commonwealth. Look no further. This race may simply begin and end with this guy right here, with the number 5 Nashville. You know, you could talk about him getting loose, and he's probably going to get loose looking at these Time Form US pace figures. And I like their pace figures a lot, Time Form US. And I find their pace projector is accurate, and it's very handy to compare your work to. Nashville getting loose and controlling the pace to me is not, like, in my mind anyway, isn't a reason to just go wild over him. For me, it's about, if he's as good as once advertised, and we know the kind of buzz this horse had late in his 3-year-old season up through the Malibu when he didn't run all that well behind Charlatan. If this horse is as good as he was supposed to be, the others are probably in trouble on Saturday, on Bluegrass Day in the Commonwealth. And believe me, there were some anxious moments. I would imagine there was a real sense of urgency going into his last race, and he wasn't even favored, but got the win, crushing win on the front end with a fast figure. And I'm curious to see, is this another Yaupon for Steve Asmussen? We'll find out with Nashville. Prevalence is another hard hitter, and looking back, a little bit of a rush job, I think, trying to get this horse last season to the Kentucky Derby. It was boom, win on that was Pegasus Day, in fact, January 23rd. He wins on the Pegasus undercard. They get the allowance race into him on March 11th, on 3/11 Day 2021, and then boom, into the Wood Memorial. Doesn't run well. They try him once more Derby Day in the Pat Day Mile against Jackie's Warrior. He doesn't run. And then that necessitates a layoff, and a lengthy one. Comeback race, not much to write home about against Candyman Rocket. Different ball game, though, on the Fountain of Youth undercard. And who's to say, much like Nostalgic and Speaker's Corner, this isn't a Godolphin homebred with the big pedigree. And you know how big of a Brendan Walsh proponent I am. Who's to say this horse doesn't have another forward move in him? I'm dying to see how Obezos runs, cutting back to 7. My honest take on him, aside from just the fact that he's so honest, you know how tough this game is. You get a horse like him, no matter who he's in against, no matter the distance, the trip, always seems to give a good account of himself. And I really respect Obezos because of that fact, that he's just such a tough, consistent overachiever. I don't know though what his best game is, what his best trip is. I have said for a while, I've kind of leaned towards him being a 1-run closing sprinter between 7/8 or maybe 6.5 furlongs out to 1 mile around one turn. He'll get a good test Saturday, and he's going to need to be good for sure, running against Prevalence, and again, the big boy in that race in Nashville, who's going to be a big favorite. Moving on, and I'll wrap things up with the Bluegrass Stakes here. Looking around, this race is perhaps way more wide open than the Wood. I think the majority of people are going to, in the Wood, basically zero in on Morello, early voting, and Mo Donegal. You don't, or at least to my eyes, you don't really have, again, sort of that 3-pronged attack in the Bluegrass where everybody else looks just too slow and or outclassed. That said, I like a horse that's not going to be all that big of a price. And in fact, he's going to be a major player for most people. And that is Zandon for Chad Brown. Going back and watching his effort in the Risen Star, he ran well behind Epicenter, who I think if the Kentucky Derby was Saturday, that horse would be the favorite and is a powerhouse. This looked like an effort, legit 5-wide trip around that second turn, and just that steady, grinding tight finish. This was a good effort to get him going for Chad, and I'm expecting an even better effort. Smile Happy ran pretty well. I thought Smile Happy of the two had the better trip in the Risen Star. But, I mean, here's a colt by Run Happy, who's run really well in his 3 starts to date. And I would suspect and I would believe he's the kind of horse that's going to, and speculate that he's going to move forward as he makes his second start back this season for trainer Ken McPeak. Does Rattle and Roll run a bit better? Of the 2 McPeaks there towards the outside, he's going to be a way bigger price than his stablemate and Smile Happy. I don't care about the Fountain of Youth race. I mean, much like Mo Donegal, this is the kind of horse that you're just so up against it at Gulfstream Park and that pseudo bull ring over the main track at Gulfstream. His Louisiana Derby effort wasn't great, and they're going to wheel him back just 14 days later. Does he get back to one of his better races? Although I think in hindsight and looking at his 2-year-old form with a magnifying glass, minus having run against Brigadier General, I don't know how well the form with Classic Causeway and some of these horses that ran in the Breeders' Futurity, I don't know how well the form of that race has held up. Emmanuel is dangerous for Todd. Todd's got 2 in the race, in fact. Legit 5-wide trip, an impossible trip in the Fountain of Youth behind Simplification. And getting Louis back with a better break and a better post, which he's got, I would imagine we'll probably see Emmanuel flaunting that early speed of his and not getting the same kind of trip or bad luck or adversity that he had in the Fountain of Youth. And I've watched Command Performance. I know he's a maiden, and Giant Game did beat him in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But this horse's first and second starts were legitimately good, and that Champagne behind Jack Christopher was a legit big effort. I'm not going to hold, especially if he's going to be 15-1 or so, and he's got a rod from the rail. Not going to hold that loss against Fenwick last time out at a nickel at Tampa against him. I don't know about the win, but having watched him train, he's really trained well, this horse, in recent weeks, coming out of that disappointing or maybe surprising defeat at Tampa Bay Downs. He's a long shot play to perhaps get the number, but I am most certainly a Zandon fan with the Flightlines rider in Flavian Pratt. So that'll wrap things up. I wish everybody the best of luck. And if you're jumping in and playing a little Santa Anita as well on a Santa Anita Derby Day, good luck out there. Best of luck and safe trips to everybody, including, of course, our West Point horses. Depending upon when you're listening to this podcast, we've got West Point Magnolia Midnight running on opening day at Keeneland in the Lafayette. He's one of my favorite horses in the stable. And best of luck to both First Captain and Obezos and the West Point horses running throughout the country this weekend and over the next few weeks. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you have a great Wood Bluegrass opening Keeneland Santa Anita Derby weekend. And I look forward to seeing many of you up at OBS April in less than 2 weeks. And of course, down the line at Belmont Park and Saratoga and all points in between. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.